Hi everyone, it's October 6, 2021, and you're watching me, Nikki, also known as Awesome 10x Nikki, for the Philippine Market Update. Today, we're also going to be reading the Keepers Holdings. Is it an IPO worth investing upon? Let's take a look at the prospectus. But before that, let's go to the Philippine Market Update. You can see that the Philippines is above 7,000, trading at 7,057. Almost all sectors are up, from the PSCI index, all shares, financials, industrials, holdings, properties, even mining. So services are also strong. And market value is now as high as 9 billion pesos. Foreign net selling is still negative 350 million. And you can see that the locals are mostly the ones buying things up. The largest gain, 9%, comes from Globe. Robinson's Retail up 5%, Converge up 5%, Aboitiz Power up 4%. So let's read through all these strongest movers or your gainers. Amongst your index first, so in the index, we have been seeing ever since that Globe, i.e. the telecoms, Globe, Converge, Tel, have really been the most outperformed sector. And so they have contributed this 7,000 index for us. So let's just look at that for you. Globe is now trading at the highest at 3,410. PLDT is also trading near its high of 1710. And let's read Converge. Converge is trading 44 pesos. So that's the high for all of them, for all three. What else? SM Prime. So properties went up, but this is a really weak sector. SM Prime 33.8, up 3%. Ayala Land 33.4, up 2.3%. Your Mega World is 2.9, down slightly, unchanged. Let's take a look at the banks. Your BDO is up 2%, 114.5. Some of your BPI, 81.5, still slumber. Metrobank still slumber at 45 pesos. And so the big caps in general, like the conglomerates, much neutral. Amongst the conglomerates, let's read through this. Your JG Summit, 64.7. Your GT Cap, 540 pesos. San Miguel is 114.5. Your SM is 1,000 peso. Ayala Corp is 820 pesos. AGI is 10.2. LTG is 9.75. Aboitiz Equity Venture is 49. Amongst the conglomerates, we can only see quite strong momentum on Aboitiz Equity Ventures. And its underlying inside is Aboitiz Power, which is also trading well at 30.65. Amongst the utilities, let's just go through it. Aboitiz Power, Energy, 30.65. FGen, 30 pesos. You've got ASEN. ASEN is trading at 12.4. So those are your renewable energy sources in the index. Amongst your consumer staples, your pure gold is trading at 42.45. Robinson's Retail is now trading at 61 peso 10 cents, a level not Hi, okay, sorry, I got disconnected. Just to recap, in the Philippine market, we see strength amongst telecoms continuing, primarily dominated still by Globe and Converge. PLDT still followed suit amongst these two. In terms of power, it's still a fight between ASEN and AP. ASEN really hitting all-time highs. I would actually say to people who don't have it not to chase because there are some new positions also growing. If you notice, last few weeks, we've seen the DMC and Semirara's rise. That's an energy stock move because of shortages. And it has been seen in the charts. That's why your DMC is trading at 8, your Semirara is trading at 25. Take note that we are seeing almost the same thing happen with your Petron and Shell, which are oil-related counters. Notice why that's
Share
happening
screen, Nikki.
because oh sorry, I'll share screen. Notice that's happening because oil and coal stocks have been rising all throughout the world. So there's a supply shortage, and those who have crude oil are benefiting. So let's take a look at Brent crude oil. It's trading at $80. No, look at that. This is crude oil now trading at 79. And this is the highest that it has been for the last 6 years. So ito yon since 2014, November. So this movement is brought about not by strong demand, but actually shortages. So there was a lot of shortages in oil. They didn't expect recovery at all. So yan, that's why there's an oil spike, which is going to be inflationary. What else is happening? Coal stocks have been rising. Let's show to you what's happening. China coal has been rising, no, from about 2 to 6. This movement was actually copied by DMC. Look at your DMC chart here. Rising from as low as 5 pesos, now trading at 8 pesos. We saw the breakout of 7 as a momentous occasion because that is a 1 year consolidation. DMC has never broken above 7 until nowadays. So for now, the next resistance will be 9, although I'd say that some people would still be selling here at 8 and trim, and then they'll buy if there's a pullback. We think that these are very difficult to ascertain how high can it go, but just be aware that it's a short term movement brought about by world price shortages. So Globe is trading at all-time highs, now trading at 3.4. Although that's very strong, usually I would sell on that run up and then I'll just wait for another consolidation. So those who bought on the consolidation at 2.9, 3,000 here could actually be selling 3.4 to 3.5 for Globe, and that's pretty normal. Okay, so for the Philippine market, we saw Picor, no? So we're seeing this trend. Picor broke above 320 first 2 days, so we'll see if it's consolidating, but 320 seems to be a strong support there. And Shell Philippines, let's take a look at that, also growing. So there could be a support now at 20 peso below, given this strong run up in oil. Now, another thing to notice in the chart, there is a volume surge on SEB. There is a surge in Macro Asia. So this was rising to 4.9. I'm not sure if this has to do with reopening themes, but it could be the Merck vaccine that has been leading the airlines worldwide. Let me show to you the worldwide ascent of airlines in the US. Delta Airlines has been growing for the last few weeks, 38 to 45, and this is an outperformance given the Nasdaq was falling during this time. So I'd say that airlines as a whole, which is represented by US Global Jets ETF, has been rising, showing the market that the world wants to reopen. It's possible that the people are buying airlines in response to that world. So I'd have to say this is cyclical though. So maybe macro Asia can still fall to about 450, just like what happened every time there is a surge in cases. Nonetheless, for the year, we can see that these reopening stocks are still well near the lows rather than what's happening with telecoms, which are actually well going all-time highs. So this is your Converge trading at 44, Globe at 34, Tel at about 1710. For PLDT, if you will buy this, any dips like this week it dropped, last week it dropped about 1600. There are gonna be those chances. So we don't think that any dips would be very deep, but it's a shallow dip that people would buy. Okay, so let's go and begin with the Keepers Sorry for that long introduction. Let's now understand the IPOs. So the Philippine market is strong. Therefore, there's a lot of upcoming IPOs. There is the Keepers Holdings, aka Davin. They say that this is the keeper of leading spirits brands in the Philippines. For over 20 years, companies owned by Lucio Co, the Keepers, have brought the best of the best international brands of wines and spirits to the Philippine shores. So let's take a look at this Montosco, Meritus Prime Distribution, Premier Wine Spirits, the three major players in liquor, wine, and specialty beverage distribution. So it is a long-standing relationship with many owners. The lines include brands such as Johnny Walker, the range of whiskeys, the Singleton Scotch Whiskey, Tanqueray Gin, Bailey's Liquor, Captain Morgan Rum, Smirnoff Vodka. So you could see that these are the brands that they carry and distribute all over the Philippines. So these are popular liquor brands. So they are a distributor. Okay. So it says here that popular brands like even the Glenfiddich, the lineup also includes Alhambra Brandy, brands from Bean Suntory such as Jim Beam, Maker's Mark, US Whiskies, Suntory Range, the Roku Craft Gin, Jose Cuervo, Jagermeister, Jinro Soju through the distribution links with the Heated Jinro Group. Through their 30% equity interest with Pernod Ricard's Philippines, they distribute a vast portfolio of brands such as Chivas Regal, Martel Cognac, Absolute Vodka, Jameson Irish Whiskey. They are arguably the most extensive collection of brands in terms of distribution network in the Philippines. Therefore, it is not a surprise that total imports volume in the Philippines is 74% owned by Keepers Group. They account for every distribution of liquor in the Philippines. They are, of course, a member of Costco Capital, affiliated with Pure Gold retail chain. So there's synergy there. The reason why they can distribute a lot of liquor in the Philippines is because they own one of the largest, if not the largest retail chains in terms of supermarkets for the Philippines. They have like more than 500 stores, which is their distribution center. We are seeing consumers increasingly choosing quality over quantity in terms of an experience of alcohol consumption. So the key metrics here for the Keepers Holdings, for those interested with this IPO, let's just read through this. They plan to hold an IPO from as much as 3 billion shares with an offer price amongst 2 to 2.5. So let's say it goes to the middle, which is 2.25. That would be around 6 point, what's 1/4 of 3 billion? 6.75 billion. So it's a 6.75 billion pesos. The Keepers Holdings would have China Bank, PNB Capital, and SB Capital as their issuers and book runners. All right, let's go through their prospectus. This is the Keepers prospectus. Let's go through it briefly. It is interesting IPO, if you'll ask me. That's why I'm gonna take a look and read it. Let's increase here. So you can see it, guys. Let's go through this. It's a big IPO, 6.75. How much does a distributor make in the Philippines? All right. So it's a huge market share. It's a monopoly of all the liquor and wine. So you could see that in their overview. It is gonna be a share swap transaction of Davin from Costco. Okay. And Costco is the one selling the shares because it owns the Montosco. Says here that competitive strength, all right, leading market position in the imported spirits distribution of Philippines, high potential for growth in imported spirits, wines, specialty beverage, well positioned to capture the premiumization consumer trend in the Philippines, also having an experienced management team, a long-standing relationships, so very strong competitive strengths here. The next strategies are they want to widen the market reach in the Philippines on an extensive distribution ecosystem, further enhance their product portfolio, and perhaps do an M&A. All right, so we want to see how much money they make in distributing, because this is a 7 billion peso IPO, and the use of their proceeds. All right, so let's take a look at that. Fast-paced tayo. The offer period, guys, would be November 8th until November 12th. So that would be next month. Okay, so the timetable here is October 7, they made an SEC. So that will be tomorrow, and then approval of the listing October 13. Pricing will be known on October 28, so we will know if it's 2 pesos or 225 or 250. And then offer period will begin on November 8, so people would know after October 28. So mga after All Saints Day, you'll know already the price, so you will know already if you want to submit your IPO. Okay, so we'll see, guys. Let's read through this. The income says here that they earn, well, wala pa silang earnings. You can see 2018, 2019, 2020, statements of comprehensive income. And sorry, this is, I think, different because these are operating expenses and losses per share. Parang, no, not that. Okay, here na. Okay, so here, let's see. For 2021, in the last 3 months, the net sales is about 2.5 billion pesos. That's an increase of 100% from June 30, 2020, brought about by more traffic in their, I'd say that this is brought about by more consumer traffic in the supermarkets, by the liquor as well. Cost of goods sold is 1.8, suggesting a 70% margin. So 30% gross profit margin here, hitting about 700 million. Expenses is 145 million pesos, which means that their income is 540 million, a doubling on the versus 2020. And you can see that recovery in the pandemic. And I don't think it's just recovery in the pandemic. It's just a matter of, as they said, premiumization, more consumers wanting more premium liquor and premium wines and spirits. They probably were drinking those premium wines at home. So that brought about that 100% increase in net income. Net income grew from about 190 million to 450 million. In the last 6 months, if you're going to check for the first half of 2021, it's a good income of 702 million pesos for Keepers Holdings. What else should we know about them? In terms of financial position, they're very well equipped. They've got a distribution network. So I don't think anyone can actually take advantage of their moat. 75% means they can hit the entire 90% of the entire Philippine market if they wish. So current assets, you can see is non-current assets, they say 24 billion. Their total liabilities is 10 billion, which means that they've got as much as total equity of 14 billion pesos. Okay, so capital stock and then additional paid-in capital. Then there's a deficit here. What's this? 57 billion. I don't know what this deficit has to come from. Okay. Current assets, let's just explain. They've got 1.7 billion cash. They've got inventory of 3.7 billion. So if their sales first half is 2.5, that means they have adequate inventory for the next second half. So that's 50% higher than 2.5 billion. So they have more than enough to cover the holiday binging of liquor if you have to. So non-current assets are 369 million, so 8.5 total. So most of their assets are packed in the inventory, cash, and trade receivables. Trade receivables is 1 billion. Okay, liabilities, 1 billion. This is coming from trade payables and retirement. This one, non-current liabilities, not too much. Okay, and then what's this? Retained earnings, 4.5 billion. Appropriated, 950 million. Equity adjustments, 20 billion. So I think the equity adjustment here has to do with the Costco capital, shifting it to this Keepers Holdings. Okay, cash flows. So you've got 1 billion from financing activities. Cash flows from operations. So they've got operating income of 865 million, but they have to invest it in receivables. They have 530 million receivables here. Inventories. So malaki yung inventory and prepaid expenses. Okay. What are they investing a huge much here? Wala masyadong investing here. Meron. Property and equipment. 1.6 billion. Okay. Key performance indicators. Okay. Net debt to equity. That's fine. So, ang laki rin ng distribution ng liquor, to be honest. Gross profit of 30% distributing liquor is a huge margin for a distributor. They're issuing 11 billion shares out of this share swap transaction. That would come from Costco Capital, pursuant to this Article 5. They're gonna list 3 billion, so it means that 8.25 billion shares will just be staying there. So 3 versus 11, that roughly means the public gets about 25%. no? 3 over 11.25. So the public gets 25% share, number of shares, effect of changes in par value, number of shares after share swap transaction. Okay, so, okay. What else should we know about them? I'm not sure if this news will actually be positive for Costco Capital because they are the share swap transaction beneficiary as well. So if Keepers Holdings goes up, it's probably gonna affect even Costco Capital. So revenues, ito yung cost of sales. I think sinasabi natin, almost 30% gross profit, almost 20% EBIT. So actually, this is a huge margin for liquor. I guess this was the reason why the supermarket uh, made it separate, the distribution business of liquor. It's because of the huge margin, no? Malaki 30% yung gross profit to distribute liquor. Says here that the revenues is mainly attributable to the liquor bans imposed nationwide during the quarantine. And then after the ECQ, they were able to sell again. Also, there was price increases on Alfonso of Montosco, which is their own brand, which contributed in preserving revenues for 2020. All right. So I guess the big risk here is another ECQ or another banning of selling liquor. But if those social limitations are not gonna happen in the next few years, then they could sell better. Yeah. From a first look, I'd say this is okay. So let's compare this with, of course, the only competitor, which is Emperador. Emperador sales, diba? We saw was doing so well. We actually covered Emperador, but Emperador has been selling it worldwide. This one is just selling liquor on, and they only have one product, which is Alfonso Brandy. Everything else is liquor brands that are imported. So I think that comparing Emperador versus Costco Capital's Keepers Holdings, it's not equivalent because one is a manufacturer, one is a distributor. A manufacturer would always be priced higher than than a distributor. But sige, you saw the earnings already. So they're gonna list at 11.25, let's say times 2 pesos na lang. So that's about 22 to 25 billion market cap. So they're gonna be selling themselves at about if they earn 1 billion pesos a year, seeing they earn 500 million for the first half, Keepers Holdings is gonna be trading somewhere between 20 to 25 times PE multiple, price earnings ratio, which is fine. Which is not gross, like not too high, not too cheap either. I think 20 times is fair. 20 to 25 times earnings ratio is fine. Let's see if there's more information for Keepers Holdings. Nodding on no, this was July, September. So it's big, no? So they're offering 7 billion pesos. They want to get 7 billion pesos from their IPO 2 weeks ago. Let's read further. So Lucio is seeing a bigger market from millennials. So they're seeing growth for themselves because of millennials drinking premium liquor, and they are distributing this premium liquor. Okay, let's give you some analysis for Keepers Holdings. If you're gonna ask me, is that growth gonna continue? I think the first 100% jump is just because of the pre-pandemic 2020. So maybe the screen has to just be me. Okay na yun. Or sige, let's go through the Lucio entities that will benefit or get affected here. Costco Capital is trading at 495. I do think that this share swap is positive to Costco Capital, but most likely very positive for Keepers Holdings. With 7.5 billion pesos, it allows Keepers Holdings to get their yung mga receivables and payables, magiging mas maayos yung cash flow conversion nila. And I think they can sell better with that cash proceeds. So use of proceeds is very much gonna be to distribute more liquor in the Philippines. Okay, if you ask me, will more liquor be consumed by Filipinos in the next coming years? It's a matter of population growth. It's a matter of consumption spending. So it's very tricky. I wouldn't know if 2.5 billion, or I mean, kasi 1 year, 5 billion pesos. I wouldn't know if that 1 billion profit that they generate every year can grow huge. But let's assume very simply, paying 20 times multiple for any company whose cash flow is 1 billion a year is still a good deal. If you ask me, paying 20 to 25 times is normal. I wouldn't pay 40 times for this, obviously, because I can see a huge jump in growth. But neither would I pay something so cheap as 15 times. So fair yon. Of course, if you can buy it below 20 times, that's even better. So from a price projection, I think that the trading range for Keepers Holdings would be somewhere from 1.5. And then, hindi din, I don't think it's gonna go below IPO eh. So, 2 pesos could go, kung magkaroon man ng sour notes, probably 1.8 until about 3. So, why 3? Why 30 billion market cap or a 50% potential growth? It's because, okay, population-wise, the Filipinos have been upgrading, and that's their theory. That and I also surmise that with upcoming reopening, more restaurants, more weddings, more banquets, you would have more liquor consumed, and that liquor consumed would be imported. And if it's imported, they will be buying those Johnny Walker blue labels or black labels from the majority leader share, which is Keepers Holdings. So I think events in general, birthday parties, Christmas parties, occasions, have liquor intertwined. So if you assume a reopening economy within the next few years, it would mean a surge of events, whether that be weddings, birthdays, parties, and that is a kicker increase for liquor consumption. So that is my bullish take for Keepers Holdings. I don't know about you, but let's see. So that's November. Let's now take a look at your questions, if any. Madam, what can you say about Jollibee? Good day, Ate Nikki. Hi, thank you. From Cebu. Hi. Thoughts on all-day IPO, thoughts on Aboitiz Power, Mondenisan, and All HC. Okay, for Jollibee, I think naman that it's really well managed. Their recent foray for the Jollibee REITs is also a positive thing because that allows Jollibee to concentrate on their food business and not think about the anxiety of rentals. So I think what's gonna happen is the Jollibee REITs would allow Jollibee to basically expand their network without expanding with their own capital, but using other people's money through the Jollibee REITs. So that should be positive. It makes it light capex for Jollibee. Nonetheless, restaurants are very tricky. Why is it very tricky? I think that restaurants is really a matter of how confident you are on the consumption of the economy. So ako in the Philippines, what I'm bullish about in the Philippines is that we are trying to recover as much as we can. And what Jollibee has also been doing is to diversify their businesses into foreign markets, which are right now hitting, it's now 28% and they want to hit 40%. So Jollibee wants to increase foreign sales, and since they see that foreign recovery is faster than domestic recovery, betting on Jollibee is more on betting on the future of the world, as in the foreign sales rather than domestic. So am I bullish on Jollibee? Yes, but I couldn't determine how long it is with 200 going to 40 or kahit 200 going to 250. I don't know how long that would take. But I do know that Jollibee on any dips below 200, let's say it drops 190 or 180, there's definitely a buyer. Thoughts on all-day IPO? That is a supermarket, more of a convenience store in my view. Hindi ko pa siya nabasa, if I'm gonna be very fair. So I can't give any thoughts. Let's see next week. I'll try to cover more IPOs. Aboitiz Power, I'm bullish. So we were bullish. We gave a deep dive on it. I think that the rebalancing of power energy units is a critical need for Filipinos So you saw Aboitiz Power doing a trajectory balance to hit 50-50, although they're not yet there, right? So you have ASEN being the core renewable so far, but I'd say that Aboitiz Power wants to also be known like that, and they're doing that. So you have a secular trend with you on Aboitiz, which means that any dips would be bought. 29, 28, 30 below should be okay. Mondanisen, I'll be honest, I find a little bit expensive at 19 to 20, but it doesn't mean that it will go down. In fact, we saw people buy it up at 18 below when it hit there. So Monday is not cheap. If I'm gonna compare Monday versus URC, it seems as if people are paying such a huge premium to Monday, and I'm not sure why or what is the validity to pay a huge premium to Monday. I think Monday right now is trading more than 50 times multiple. So we'll see. All HC, I've never really understood the premium factor for industrial leasing. So I may be one of the few people who are clueless about paying premiums on industrial leasing, other than the fact that, yes, I know that the strong real estate growth is in logistics, but still, I'm not that convinced to pay high. How about Seb and Petron? I'm bullish on Petron. As you see, coal and oil energy, sorry, not coal, oil-related stocks, energy stocks abroad have a shortage. Therefore, if you know Petron, if you are a gas station, most likely gas in the pump will increase, and therefore Petron's inventory can be sold at a higher price. So magiging mahal ang inyong gasolina. So I think Petron benefits on that front. Cebu Pacific going up, but I think this has to do more with a hope rather than a reality. So far, if you're buying Cebu Pacific, it's more of hoping that the recovery of the Philippines will do well. But we'll see about that. What's the resistance for Robinson's retail in the short term? Yeah, Robinson's retail went up strongly this time, no, for the last 7 months nga, no? This was March 2021. So I'd say that this first resistance, kaka-break out lang yan ng above 60, but next resistance is 63 and 68. So just be aware na as long as it's above 58, sell 63 and 68 siguro. Frutas is more of a distributor of a lot of juices. I'm not that confident with retail yet. Although yes, I know they've done e-commerce, but I'm not quite familiar how strong their e-commerce fronts nowadays are. So I'd pause first on Frutas. How about Lucia Tan Group? LTG, actually all the conglomerate seems to be very weak. The only conglomerate that is quite strong is Aboitiz Equity Ventures, and I surmise Aboitiz Equity Ventures is strong because of Aboitiz Power. So either you own Aboitiz Power or Aboitiz Equity Ventures. I prefer AP. How about MREIT, RCR? REITs have done well, but actually, if you ask me, with REITs, I have tempered forecasts. If you make 12 to 20% on a REIT, that's good enough. And MREIT listed at 16 pesos. Nowadays, it's trading at about 17.5. If it hits near 20, I think it's more of a sell to me at 20 or 18 above. But I could be very early because Mega World REIT said they're going to add more office BPOs, which makes it more like an Ayala REIT that keeps on expanding their portfolio, and therefore the REIT owners would not just view rental from just 10 buildings, but possibly 20 buildings, 30 buildings, and so forth. So Mega World REITs, I'm bullish on it, but I am not as bullish as the market. Like I think 18 to 20 is my target. So I wouldn't chase. RCR, same thing. In general, with REITs, I don't see a reason to be bullish to the extent of making more than 10%. So when I make more than 10%, I'm already happy to take profit. 20% is gravy. DWC, that is Discovery World. For Discovery World, we haven't seen any updates from the company front. We haven't seen any potential merger between Manny Pangalinan's group. So it seems as if DWC is going down or sleeping at the 2 peso area, which is actually where the owners also bought. The good thing about the pricing of 2 pesos is this is the price when the insiders of Discovery World were buying. So at 2 pesos, I don't see it falling down, but I'm not omniscient enough to say that it's going to go 3, 4 pesos until the insiders discuss or continue talks with any other potential developer. Because I think what's happening with DWC is they have the asset, they have all of these hectares of properties in these several tourist islands, but I don't think they are confident enough to put money in their land to develop kasi matagal pa yung tourism. So, I'm not sure if it's just a pause right now for the development of the lands. Pero yun yung mga catalyst for Discovery World. The good price now, maganda naman yung presyo ng 225. But yun nga, I don't have a short-term catalyst to say, except the fact that, well, you own plenty of lands in Palawan, plenty of lands in Siargao, plenty of lands in Cebu, and these are assets that will grow even as price appreciates. Why would land appreciate? Tourists. At the end of the day, Boracay, all of these great islands are great assets. So if you're an investor of DWC, hindi mo lang alam when will we unlock the value of these lands? Are we gonna have a JV? Kasi maraming way to unlock land eh. A joint venture is one of the best ways. And I think that's what they wanted to do with Manny Pangilinan, but we never got a conclusion to that. Is Ali good to buy now? With Ayala Land, same thing. With almost all the properties in the Philippines, you need a developer to develop. Ayala Land is the world-class developer of the Philippines. First, the very best. But I don't know how the residential sales are doing at this point in time. But in terms of net asset value, so syempre when you're buying a property, it's not about just the rental yield, but also what is that land that I have. With Ayala Land, they have a lot of hectares of land, which will appreciate over time, which tells me that it's a good buy, but I don't know when it's gonna go up. So to be honest, I'm not here to predict when will property prices of the Philippines rise, but I'm just here to give you a normal common sense view that if you own, let's say, 10,000 hectares of land in very prime areas, and Ali has them, Mega World has them, SM Prime also has good properties, they own those lands, hectares of it, and they have the capital to develop that, it makes them far more secure to unlock those lands at a premium over time. So yun lang. I just don't know in the short term. Short term, di ko masabi. So yun. This would be I'll answer the last 2 questions, Jollibee and BDO. Jollibee, wala akong masabi except na maganda yung expansion nila abroad. So nakwento ko na yung Jollibee kanina. It's more of a foreign play now rather than domestic kasi mahina pa yung domestic reopening. BDO, finance, I'd say most banks in the Philippines lethargic pa. That said, banks is really a function of the entire economy. If all the small businesses have a hard time, it is very difficult for the banks to also finance them. Let's assume you are BDO and nagpapautang ka through credit cards, consumer loans. Banks' business is to lend money. If they're not confident of consumers to have a great sales, kadikit siya eh. Pinapautang niya yung businesses. If they're not confident of business revival, mahina din ang bank interest income. So I think that's really the function of banks eh. Banks and small medium enterprises. How about the JERA deal? Who will benefit most, AV or AP? In general, AP. It's usually the one inside. Makaka-recover na ba ang Macro Asia? Macro Asia is more of a JETS play. So I've shown you, this one is US Global JETS ETF. So Macro Asia kasi, they have foreign international airlines. So kung nagre-recover yung mga Lufthansa, they'll recover too. Pero yun, you have to have time with you. So baka trading range talaga yan, mga reopening stocks. Kasi it's very difficult to say if magre-trending na ba sila. Any idea sa SRO ni Dito? No idea. Kaya yun din yung problem ng Dito Telecom. You'll notice that almost all the telecoms have been going up. but Dito has been sleeping here below 8 because of the dilution risk of that SRO. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. See you again this next week for the Philippine Market Deep Dives. And don't forget, every Friday we do have our global market updates for you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.